Everyone, my name is Andrea Patton. Welcome to the meeting of the Disability Commission Advisory Board. The open meeting law requires that I notify you that the meeting is being recorded. Therefore, please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made by Boston City TV, a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications, and is being broadcast on Xfinity Channel 26, RCN Channel 13, and FiOS Channel 962. I'm going to hit record and hand it over to Ducia Lubovskaya, the Vice Chair, who will be chairing tonight's meeting.
Recording in progress.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrea. Should I start introductions or do you want to wait?
I believe we can proceed with introductions.
I'm sorry, what?
We can proceed with introductions with the agenda. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm lost. I know we have, are we meeting called to order now or the second, or introductions?
Yes, the meeting has been called to order. We can begin with introductions. Great question.
Okay, perfect. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to start with introducing myself, and then I'm going to go around who I see first. So good evening, everybody. My name is Ducia Lubovskaya, or Ducia for short. I will be chairing this evening the meeting as our chair, Wesley Island, is not available today. So I'm usually the vice chair, but today I'll be chairing. And I am located in Boston, specifically in Mission Hill. Okay, and now I will go to the next person who I see on my screen, which would be Olivia Richard, please.
Hi, everybody. Richard Glowski, member of the commission, and I live in Jack Beck.
Thank you, Richard. Now I would like Olivia Richard. I repeat, Olivia Richard.
I'm here. My name is Olivia Richard. I am a resident of Brighton, and I'm on the board.
Thank you, Olivia. I see Jerry Borges joined. Jerry, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is Jerry Boyd. Let me put my video on there. This is Jerry Boyd. I'm a proud member of the advisory board and have been, I think this was beginning my 7th year, and I live in West Roxbury.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Next I see is Paul Karen, please.
Hi, this is Paul Karen. I live in the West End, and I serve as the secretary of the advisory board. Also, sorry about the horn behind me. I'm an advocate for mental illness.
Thank you, Paul. I am looking around. I see, okay, I'm going to first call them, there are 2 people I see now. First I'll go with Charlie Kim, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Charlie Kim. I'm a resident of the North End, and I'm on the advisory board representing parents with children with disabilities.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Now, I know I see the word iPhone, but I know it's Zachary, I think your name. So please, would you please, you have the. My apologies. I meant was there an iPhone? I know you personally, but your iPhone ends in 353. Can you hear me? Oh, Zari, I apologize. Zari, could you please, you have the floor.
Hi, sorry, this is Andrea. You should be a co-host now so that you can unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Zaria Hosseini. I live in South Boston, and I'm a member of this group, and happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Zari. Okay, I'm looking. I see is Denise Martinez. Denise Martinez, I'm assuming is a board
He's
member?
the other sign language interpreter.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. Okay, oh yes, I have here Colleen Flanagan, or if I should let her speak, or? Oh, Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, hello everyone. This is Juan Carlos Ramirez, advisory board member. Hello everyone, and I live in Boston, South End.
And I'm Elizabeth Jean Clower. I live in Dorchester, and I'm an advisory board member. And I apologize that I will only be able to attend about the first half hour of the meeting.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth and Juan. Thank you so much for your introduction. Okay, we're going to move now to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes. Do we have any, do you have anybody who wants to start with approving the minutes? Do you have a taker?
I move to approve the minutes. This is Zari.
Thank you, Zari.
And
Any
this is
second?
Jerry. I'll move to second.
Thank you very much, Jerry.
This is Elizabeth. I'd like to propose an amendment. Is this the appropriate place to do that?
Yes.
Yes, under the comments that I made regarding medical aid in dying, I don't think that that summary captures what I was trying to say, and I would, I don't know if I need to have the exact language formulated at the moment, but basically my concern was the small sample size. Based on the small sample size of the study, I didn't think generalizations could be drawn between the general population and people with disabilities. And similarly, I would not presume to say people with disabilities, we don't know what the majority of people with disabilities want. It's not a monolithic group. But then I expressed concern that there were physician attitudes, but I do not want to be on the record as the very thing that concerned me about lack of enough data, that then I was making generalizations. Does that make sense if that's distilled down? Again, that it was basically based on the small sample size of the study. I did not think generalizations could be drawn about the views of people with disabilities. And however, I did express concerns about physician attitudes based on work by Lisa Iazzonia, which I quoted. Thank you.
Hi, Elizabeth. This is Andrea. I can make the amendment that you had concerns about the sample sizes of the polls and amend the sentence that says you believe the majority of the disability community has concerns about the bill to say, expressed knowing that, based on research, people with disabilities have concerns about misconceptions. Does that sound accurate?
Right, but I don't know, I didn't characterize it as that it's not a monolithic view. I didn't say it as such. But actually, I think what my views have evolved, my own views have evolved, and I'm not trying to say all this in it, is just to say I either just leave out the one of that a majority, do have concerns. Either just don't say that at all, because that was, I think, just a misunderstanding.
Right, understood. I took out the reference to majority. I just put 2 sentences in the chat if you'd like to review them to let me know if that is a more accurate summary.
Okay, thank you.
So if that sentence feels more accurate to you, you can make a motion to make an amendment to the motion to approve the minutes with this edit. If that's what you would like to do, Elizabeth, if I accurately made a good edit in the chat.
I would say some members in the disability community.
Great.
Okay, thank you. So I propose the following amendment be made to the minutes. And now
I second.
Excellent. Any discussion? Anybody wants to discuss any further? No? All right, then the motion is taken. Thank you very much. All right, now we will go to the next part of the agenda, which is the presentation.
Lucia,
What?
this is Olivia. We need to vote.
Oh, I thought, I just heard the second vote. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'll just.
You need to do the aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God. Okay, so after no discussions, everybody in favor, please either raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The vote is taken. Okay, I apologize again for that. Now we're going to be moving to the next part of the agenda, which is the presentation, the Boston Breaks campaign with Colleen Flanagan. You have the floor.
Thank you, Lucia.
You have to talk in one of these.
I'm going to move a mic closer. Can you all hear me? Oh, maybe not yet. Can everybody hear me?
You have to get really close to them.
Okay, hold on. The mics are attached, so sorry about that. Okay, can everybody hear me now? Awesome. I'm really excited to be presenting the Boston Breaks campaign to the advisory board because it really was your leadership in partnership with the late David Vieira that made this a reality. I'm going to share my screen. It doesn't give me the option.
That's because I haven't made you a co-host,
okay.
sorry.
Okay, sorry about that. Hold on. Well, I'm going to introduce myself in the meantime. It really is an honor to meet with you all. I serve as the Outreach and Engagement Specialist for the Disabilities Commission, and a big part of my job over the past year has been delivering the information that is in Boston Breaks. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right. So here we have it, Boston Breaks, a campaign raising awareness of pedestrians with disabilities. And you can see on the screen there a favicon that we made specifically for Boston Breaks, which is an icon of a bicycle, a pedestrian using a white cane, and the universal access symbol. I'm going to kick it off with a really quick 1-minute video that gives an overview of this campaign. Oh, can we not hear it?
Afraid of, yeah.
We can't hear it? Okay. That's okay, because we're going to try to play it on a different screen since there's some audio problems. I'm now showing you the boston.gov/Boston-breaks, where all this information is available for you to use and share and see. Can you hear it now?
No,
No? Why not?
probably because of your share settings.
Because of my share settings.
Yep.
Okay.
Close, unshare.
Okay, let me, I can also skip the videos and give the rest of the presentation.
You want to try screen share one more time?
Okay, hold on, we're gonna fix this right now.
Just hit screen share, not the arrow.
Oh, okay, this,
Yep. Share sound.
oh, sure, okay, okay.
Now you're good.
Look at that, Andrea is an amazing chief of staff of the Disabilities Commission, ready to fix anything. Okay, sorry about that, let's try this. Oh no, now it needs a Zoom password, why? What? Oh, no.
Let me share screen.
Okay, okay, Andrea's gonna share screen for me because I'm just afraid I'm sharing screen now, it's weird. Oh, I apologize for all of this, delays, this isn't typical. Thank you, Juan Carlos, for the tip in the chat about how we can share the sound. Andrea's pulling up the presentation right now with the slides.
Colleen, hi, it's Kristen.
Yeah.
You can also give some context about the campaign and talk about David Vieira.
Yes, yeah, let me do that, because again, the leadership that came from this advisory board and David Vieira, a disability advocate from Hyde Park, really is the reason that we have Boston Breaks. And it's really, really necessary, because we need to make sure that everybody that's in our public spaces understands the unique needs of people with disabilities. That's what this campaign is all about. It has safety tips as well as some great information. So Andrea is ready to share this 1-minute video to give you an overview of the Boston Breaks campaign, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty safety tips. Is it not? Huh.
Boston is a great way to exercise, to explore new things, or to just get to where you're going. But navigating the streets isn't the same for everyone. People with disabilities face unique challenges, so it's important to remember to share the space, to be patient, respectful, and aware of those around you, and to help make Boston a city that's accessible, inclusive, and welcoming to people of all ages and abilities. As you travel through the city, do so in a safe and responsible way. The city is busy, and each situation is different. But remember to always give pedestrians the right of way. Obey traffic laws and pay attention to bike signage for your safety and the safety of others. Always use the designated bike lanes if possible and avoid riding on sidewalks. Remember, people with disabilities may not always see or hear you approaching and may not be able to get out of the way quickly. So always be prepared to yield, stop, and use caution. So next time you cycle through the city, be patient and aware of those around you and lead with inclusivity and kindness. Because on the streets of Boston, there's space for all of us.
So that 1-minute video has been shared on social media, not just only our own, but with a lot of our partners. So we're going to jump back into the slides.
You do the slides.
Oh.
You got them up.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if I could. Okay. So, oops. You got a sneak peek of the answer. And I'm sure a lot of you here do know. But did you know how many people with disabilities live in the city of Boston? Like I said, I'm sure a lot of you did know, but just in case you didn't, there are 80,000 residents living with a disability in Boston. That's about 12% of our residents. That's a big population, and it's important that everybody understands our unique needs. And as we know, Boston has a changing infrastructure. We are becoming a healthier, greener, more resilient city, and that has meant that we have had a shift in the traditional uses of our sidewalk curb zones. Those new elements that have shifted how we use the sidewalk include bike lanes, as well as outdoor dining and electric charging vehicles. Our goal with Boston Breaks is to raise awareness of and increase the safety for pedestrians with disabilities on public rights-of-way as our city embraces this changing infrastructure. So I've had the privilege to be able to share this information as part of the outreach that we do in the Disabilities Commission. We had 65 print ads in bus shelters all across the city sharing Boston Breaks information, including a QR code that people could use to get more information. I've done 21 presentations in over 6 months to groups that range from school-age youth to senior centers to colleges and university clubs and many cyclist community events. A lot of this outreach has been done online, mainly on Instagram, and because of this campaign, we grew our followers to over 500. And we also shared the infographic, which you can find on boston.gov/Boston-Breaks, with over 26 bike shops across the city. And they've posted those infographics in their store windows and have them available for free for any of their customers to take. Those infographics go into detail about the safety tips that I'm about to review with you. So Boston Breaks is about sharing our space. And that is because in Boston, it is important to respect each other's pace. So these are some of the safety tips that I've been sharing. Please be aware that many older people with disabilities and people with mobility impairments may not be able to quickly step out of the way when a cyclist approaches. We're also making sure that the cyclist community is aware that people who are blind or low vision might not be able to see a bicycle or a scooter coming toward them. So reminding people to use their bells and other auditory signals. And we're also making sure that people are aware that if somebody is deaf or hard of hearing, they won't necessarily hear that bell or a horn, so that they need to make themselves known visually. And we also remind everybody that disability is not always visible. Many people have visual, hearing, sensory, cognitive, and intellectual disabilities that are not obvious. All this information has been presented in a fun, animated video that's about 2 minutes long. I'm going to stop sharing so Andrea can share her screen and you guys can see this really fun video that has all the safety tips that we've been talking about.
Home to legacy, history, and traffic. So naturally, riding your bike is a great way to get around. But it's important to remember to share the space with pedestrians. This includes people with disabilities who face unique challenges when navigating our city. Let's take a look at some of the common safety rules we all should follow. White cane law. When you see a pedestrian walking with a white cane, this indicates that the user is blind or visually impaired. You must come to a complete stop, then allow them to safely cross the street. Bike parking. When parking your bike, leave at least 4 feet for pedestrians to get by. Never block sidewalks, curb ramps, crosswalks, or accessible parking spaces. Poles that designate accessible parking may not be used to lock your bike. Obey traffic laws. When cycling through the city, always give an audible signal before overtaking or passing. Be aware, someone who is deaf or hard of hearing will not know you're approaching, and older adults may not be able to move quickly out of your way. Avoid riding on sidewalks. Always use bike lanes when they're available, and only ride on sidewalks when necessary for safety. This will prevent unnecessary conflict with pedestrians. Yield at curb ramps and crosswalks. When approaching a crosswalk with a curb ramp, always leave the curb cut open for pedestrians. People with disabilities need access to ramps to safely transition off the sidewalk. Those with visual disabilities rely on the yellow, bumpy surface to know they're about to enter the crosswalk. In conclusion, always pay attention to signage throughout the city for your safety and the safety of others. And remember, use caution when navigating alongside pedestrians, especially people with disabilities. Always be ready to yield or stop. The City of Boston. Let's share the space.
So that 2-minute video gave you all of the safety tips we have, but we also have those safety tips cut up so that we can share each video independently. Oh no, sorry. So just to wrap it up, I want to remind you some of the most the safety tips that we've gotten the most feedback from, the most thank yous from, because sometimes this was information that people truly needed a reminder about. So the Boston Break safety tip to yield at crosswalks and curb ramps has been very well received and very needed in the community. The Boston Break safety tip to respect the white cane law has been very well received, and a lot of people even told me they didn't know about white cane law before this campaign. So that's very good. And the Boston Break safety tip to park your bike in a designated area has been very appreciated and needed information in the city. So a reminder in closing, whatever your wheels, remember to yield and share the space. And you all have my contact information, but it's here again. That QR code will bring you directly to the Boston Breaks page. And thank you again for your leadership on this issue so that we can become a stronger city and a city that's easier to get around for everyone. Thank you. Back to you, Ducia.
Thank you very much, Colleen, for that presentation. I think we're going to start now with questions. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the presentation?
I do see it before we jump to that. Is Kristen Markosh, the Disability Commissioner. I'm just going to jump in and add a little context as well.
Sure.
Thank you. So thank you so much, Colleen, for that presentation. Like Colleen mentioned, it's been a long-term effort on behalf of our department, really stemming from David Vieira's lived experience of almost getting hit by bicycles near Copley Square when he was going to the library. So we appreciate all the advocacy on David's behalf and from everybody else, but wanted to mention one important statistic. And Colleen mentioned that there are 80,000 residents with disabilities, but keep in mind that's only Boston residents, and that's only people who self-identify as having a disability. We know that if you take into account tourists and visitors, people who commute to the city, and people who don't identify or list in the American Community Survey that they have a disability, when you take into account those numbers, the number of people with disabilities on our sidewalks every day could be in the, over 100,000. So it's really important that we get this message out. Colleen is targeting cyclists, but nowadays we see so many different mobility devices. We see the electric scooters, not the mobility scooters, but the other scooters. There are electric skateboards. There's even one thing that's just like a giant wheel. I don't know how people balance on it, but we see that too. And we see them not only like on the streets, but or in the bike lanes, but also on the sidewalks. So it's really important that we get this message out. And like Colleen said, she's done a number of presentations, but we are turning to the board. We want you to help us get the word out, because it's really important that we get this message out, not only to the disability community, but to the general public. I know Colleen's targeted some colleges because a lot of college students ride bikes, and like she said, bike groups. So really proud of the work that Colleen and my department have done on this, and just wanted to turn it over to you for any more questions. Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Colleen. This is Zari. So I have one quick question. From one of the, I think it was the second video where there was a point made about bicyclists not tying or locking their bikes to the sign where the wheelchair signs are. I'm just wondering, how is this, I know that you did an outreach to the colleges, but I'm sure there are bicyclist groups that have also been contacted. But is there also any kind of violation fee if this happens? I wonder if, like, for example, if a bike is parked in front of a curb and I can't get through, could I call the city and report it?
Yes.
And what would happen in that case?
So anything that has to do with like parking or debris that you find in the sidewalk, you should be calling 311 because you can make a ticket and then follow up on it and watch its progress. Does that answer your question? Sorry.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. And do you see? I see Richard's hands up. So.
Sorry, I'm having microphone issues as well. Richard, if you want to speak, feel free.
Thanks, Lucia. Sort of the same question. I'm curious about enforcement. You know, how is the police department aware of, I mean, if the video's been shown to our on-the-street police officers, and are they paying attention to these issues? I don't know what everybody else's experience is, but my experience is that the videos are great, but I'm not sure the message is out there enough to people. I see all kinds of bicyclists and others who I think are a hazard.
I can take this one. So yes, that is a question that we get frequently, enforcement. So that's something that we want to work in partnership with the local community police officers, because the goal really isn't to be punitive, like to be issuing tickets, but it is educating people who ride bikes about the different needs of pedestrians, particularly pedestrians with disabilities. So I think our goal really is partnership and collaboration with the police department, which we will be working on over the winter. We launched this campaign really at ADA Day. That was our big launch. So Colleen was busy, in addition to all her other work, getting this campaign out. So we haven't really worked with the police department yet, but that is certainly on our list to collaborate with. Thank you.
Don't see any hands raised. Any more questions from anybody from the board? All right. Anybody from the public, maybe?
Ducia, I'll just step in to let folks from the public know, because you cannot unmute yourselves inherently, you'll have to either raise your hand on camera, use the raise hand function, or put in the chat that you have a question, and then if Ducia, acting as chair, recognizes you, I will give you a request to unmute request. So just letting you all know that. So if you have questions, let us know. Otherwise, we will move on, but that will also be the process during public input at the end of the agenda.
All right. Okay. Oh, all right. Perfect. Then
I just want to add one more thing to Richard's question. Sorry, Richard, I did mean to mention also that we are working with BTD, the Boston Transportation Department. They're rewriting their rules and regulations having to do with traffic and parking in the city, and we're putting in a whole section on bicycles. So we can talk in there about like rules and regulations of bicycle parking. So that is one policy area that we're working on in addition to working with the police department. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen McCosh. All right, then I will move to the next item, which is the chair's report. So I will be presenting on behalf of Wesley Island, who is not able to be here. And yeah, so I have this report in front of me, and yeah, I'm just reading, so I'll be reading from a paper, and so I apologize if you're like thinking what's going on here. All right, so this is the chair's report. Reading on Wesley Island's behalf. My sincere apologies for not making it to tonight's meeting. By the time Ducia is reading this report, I will have finished attending a wake, and then the funeral is currently underway for one of the main mass mass shooting victims, a family friend of ours that we knew well. This tragedy that happened in Maine is horrible. And in my wildest imagination, I never thought the deaf community, there were 9 playing cornhole at the bar that night, and that they would be in the crosshairs of this unexpected chaos. I kindly ask Ducia to offer a moment of silence to everyone and their families and friends impacted by the October 25th event. So yeah, I will definitely want to do that right now, and I want to offer a moment of silence. All right, going to continue with the report. Okay. The city of Boston has their first ever deaf police officer. Hooray for that. He was just initiated, and his name is Mohamed Abanor. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Mayor Michelle Wu was in attendance at this initiation ceremony. Mohamed is a graduate of the Horace Mann School for the Deaf at Northeastern University. He hopes to become a community police officer and get involved with investigative work. We wish him the best in his new opportunity. Disney will be releasing a new animated movie on November 22nd, 2023, and the name of the movie is Wish. The main character, Asha, I hope again I'm pronouncing the name correctly, has a best friend named Dahlia, I apologize, who happens to have a disability. Jennifer, I apologize again in advance, Jennifer Komiyama, an actress/singer, will be the voice of Dahlia, and in real life, Jennifer has a rare condition that requires her to use a wheelchair. Since this is the last meeting of the year, I would like to acknowledge that it has been almost a year since Mayor Michelle Wu has signed the captioning ordinances into city law. This is still the biggest accomplishment that has happened for the Disability Commission, and I am pleased to report that there was only one complaint that the City of Boston received regarding leaving captions on in public places. I will be meeting with Chair Jay Livingstone this month to discuss the statewide bill to have captions on in public places. We had our election yesterday. The re-elected city councilors are Aaron Murphy, Ruzi Lujun, Julia Magee, Gabriela Coletta, Ed Flynn, and Brian Worrell, and Tanya Fernandez Anderson, Sharon Durkin, and Liz Braden. Again, I personally want to apologize if I butchered any names. The newcomers are Henry Santana, Benjamin Weber, John Fitzgerald, and Enrique Pepin. So the Disability Commission Advisory Board sent a congratulatory letter and ensure the newcomers acknowledge that we exist. Thank you, that's the end of the report. All right, now we are moving to the next part of the agenda, which is for Krista McCosh.
Thanks, Ducia. I believe Andrea will share my report with everybody. Great. Well, welcome back. It's only been 2 weeks since we've seen everybody, but I do have some new updates. It'll be a shorter report tonight, but I can jump right in. So just wanted to let you know about some upcoming events and opportunities. There's a public forum being held tomorrow night by the Bay State Council for the Blind, RTAG, and BCIL about Uber and Lyft refusal of service animals. Again, it's Thursday, tomorrow night, November 9th, from 6 to 8 p.m. on Zoom. And it should be an interesting forum. We know we've heard that reported to our office, that people who use service animals are frequently refused service by Uber and Lyft. So I'm looking forward to attending. Also wanted to let everybody know that my office is participating in the annual Special Education Resource Fair being held by the Boston Special Ed Parent Advisory Council on Thursday, November 16th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Murphy School in Dorchester. And then also wanted to let people know that the mayor's digital team is looking to gather some stock images of people with disabilities, doing things like riding the T, using service dogs, people who use white canes. We'd like a video or audio snippet of audible crosswalks, and people with disabilities at local landmarks such as City Hall Plaza and the State House. So we'd love to get some board members involved in this video and photography project. If anyone's interested, please reach out to us and let us know. I don't know if any of you have ever searched for stock photos online of people with disabilities, but we tend to see older images of people in wheelchairs being pushed. They're usually like old metal wheelchairs, and they're sometimes with someone who's in like a nurse's uniform, or it's in a medical setting. So we'd love to get some updated images of people with disabilities out and about, doing things that they typically do, not in a medical setting, or seeing them as patients or people who are sick. So we'd love to get you involved in that. Please let us know if you're interested. Also next week, we are having our annual webinar called Pathways to Employment with the City of Boston. This webinar will take place on Tuesday, November 14th, from 12 noon to 1:30 on Zoom. And this event really strives to break down barriers for getting hired by the city. If you're interested in a city job, it is a very complex process to figure out even just how to apply, or to realize like what the requirements are for working for the city. Do you have to be a resident, or do you have to be a resident upon hire, or do you get a grace period to move into the city? Things like that. There are also 6 different agencies that do hiring for the city. There is the Boston City Hall, the main human resources page, but there's also the Boston Public Health Commission, the Boston School Department, the Boston Housing Authority. Those are the big ones, the Boston Public Health Commission. So we're going to have representatives from all those human resources departments to break down the barriers and demystify the process of gaining employment with the city. So we would love it if you would spread the flyer to your networks. We'll share my slide deck with you after the meeting, and there's a link on the slide deck that you can refer people to attend this webinar. Next page. Some updates for the advisory board. I know at our last meeting, Elizabeth asked about the year in review for City Hall Plaza. So we reached out to Public Works, and they are happy to do a walkthrough with board members to review the condition of the bricks after 1 year. They gave us some available dates, which I've listed out here. So we'll send an email out to everybody tomorrow to see if any of these dates work for people. Some of it will be dependent on the weather. We can pick a date. Raining, or if it's really cold, we may have to reschedule, but and then a couple of dates the week after. So we'll send those out, and happy to have anybody participate who's interested. And my department will also put a message in our newsletter asking for feedback on people's experiences using City Hall Plaza over the past year, and what they've thought of the brick and the wayfinding and everything else that we worked hard on. So then just some administrative updates. Reminder that our scheduled meeting for December 20th is canceled. So this is the last time we'll see you this year. We look forward to seeing you in 2024. We'll send you out the new schedule as soon as it's confirmed. It probably won't be until late December, but we'll try to keep the meetings on Wednesday evenings because that's where they've been the last few years. So we'll try to keep that consistent. But as you may have noticed, they're not always the same Wednesday of the month, and that is really dependent on the cable schedule for recording and broadcasting the meetings. We are planning to hold elections in February, so be prepared to come with nominations in January. And one other thing I've mentioned before, but we would love it if any of you are interested in attending monthly Zoom meetings with the CODA group. It stands for the Commission on Disabilities Alliance, and it's made up of disability commissions from the local Boston area. Brookline, Newton, Cambridge, Watertown. All of these local groups meet monthly just to talk about common issues and things that we can do in response to things that we notice around our cities. So we welcome everybody to join. And next page. And just some updates. Again, one thing that we talked about last month, we had sent out an implementation plan on the curb ramp decree that we signed in 2021 to ensure that Boston's curb ramps are as accessible as possible. So when we sent the plan out, it was a little bit dense and hard to get through. So I know Jerry had asked for some clarification on what we wanted feedback on. So we did meet with our Public Works Department to ask what would be useful feedback from board members, because we know that the document was tough to get through and it was kind of technical. So Andrea is going to talk about what feedback we got that you can give us that would be helpful to the Public Works Department. Andrea?
Thanks, Commissioner. We will be planning a public meeting as well to discuss these areas, but for those of you that already have the plan, the two specific things that will be helpful to hear from the public on. The first is prioritization. So there is a requirement in the consent decree to prioritize access to certain public buildings, schools, medical facilities over purely residential areas. The city also has a few other prioritization standards related to research on underserved areas, research on what's called socially vulnerable areas, which isn't the best term, but it's not our term, it's a federal term for research. So there's a few different things that the city is trying to balance in terms of prioritization, and it would be helpful to hear from members of the public your thoughts on that and how those prioritization standards are sort of playing out, and if you have concerns. Again, at a public meeting, we'll have a specific activity to help get some specific feedback. The second thing is there are places in Boston where a fully 100% perfect compliant ramp may not be fully possible. I don't know if folks have spent a lot of time, say, in Charlestown, where the natural topography is steep and there are a lot of hills, or on a really narrow sidewalk where there's private property that we can't, touch in the way that we would want to build a fully wide one with a level landing, et cetera. There are a couple of places where the city might need to build then a non-standard ramp. In general, the city will go to the State Architectural Access Board for sort of feedback on variances and times where we might be allowed to build that non-standard ramp. But we'd also like to hear from folks with mobility disabilities about the features that may be modified and what really has the biggest impact on your ability to use that ramp. So this is just an example, again, we'll get into more details at the meeting, but say the ramp itself might be a little bit steeper, that way there's a fully flat level landing. Is that better for you than having a compliant ramp with a smaller level landing? Right, some of those things, it'd be helpful to know from the perspective of folks that are using these ramps every day, what's really having an impact for you. We always strive to build a fully compliant ramp everywhere we physically can, but places where there may need to be some changes, want to hear from you about your feedback. Again, we'll have a meeting with some specific activities to get into that feedback from you, but those are the two areas that we're hoping to hear on.
Yeah, so we're hoping to pull that meeting together before the end of the year. So watch out for an invitation from us, most likely early December. So then just a reminder about other city boards and commissions. We love having you all on our board, but also want to spread your talents to other boards. So again, if you are interested in moving to another board, or you have any colleagues or friends who would like to serve on a city board, let us know. And I think that's the end of my report, but I'm happy to take questions.
Jerry raised his hand.
Thank you, Ducia, and thank you, Commissioner, for providing more clarification and for wanting to provide a little bit more opportunity for board members who use chairs, as well as members of the community, to be able to really give appropriate feedback to the report. I know it's very important, but as you said, the report itself is very dense, so having some targeted questions, I think, will be really helpful to solicit the feedback that will be valuable for the city and to include in that report. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Next I see is Olivia.
Yes, this is Olivia. Commissioner, you mentioned earlier during the Boston Breaks presentation that BTD is revamping the standards. Are they going to include micromobility as well as bikes? Because those electric scooters and one wheels and those guys too are going to need some regulation.
I believe that's one of the big reasons they're rewriting the regs. I know Andrea's been working on some of that policy. I'm going to turn it over to her.
Sure, thanks, Commissioner. It put me on the spot a teensy bit, but my memory is that we're adding it to the extent that we can as a city. So in part, we're dependent on the state having a definition of them. So for example, maybe this is more the background than you need. Part of the reason we have to rewrite the rules and regs is because the state does say that bicycles have to follow the rules of vehicles, except in very specific cases. Like in some cases, they're allowed on sidewalks. Motor vehicles are never allowed on sidewalks. Just an example. But without it being in the rules and regs document, the BTD enforcement officers can't actually write a ticket because they can only write what's in the regs. So we're putting some things in the rules and regs for those smaller mobility devices, but until there's state authority to make them follow the rules, it's still going to be unfortunately kind of limited in what we can do as a city to enforce them.
However, I will say that another thing we are going to add, we're talking about adding, we'll propose to the Transportation Commissioner is specific language on the white cane law, because I don't think that's in the regs right now. But the city does have an active transit team in BTD who looks at all things active transit, including micromobility. And we also had a micromobility working group that I sat on for several years. It sort of got put on the back seat during COVID, but we talked about things like, bike lanes, scooters, the wheel, the skateboard, all those things, because the city does a lot of work on what they call the last mile transit. So you can take the T, but then if you're still like a mile or so away from your place of business or your home, like how do you get there? So things like bike shares. I know scooter companies, the rental scooter companies wanted to come into Boston. The city said no to that at the time, which I know the board advocated strongly against. So we definitely look at all those issues as a city. Just because they may not specifically be in the rules and regs doesn't mean that we don't work on those issues every day, because we do. But thank you for the question.
Yeah. One of the things that I would add to Boston Breaks is extending this information to driver's ed companies in the city who are doing vehicle education, because I can tell you, I didn't know about the white cane law until I started guiding a blind gentleman around the city.
Thanks for the suggestion. Lucy, I'll hand it back to you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Kristen Nakash. Thank you for your report. And thank you for the questions. So I see we're going to be going straight to announcements, as the architectural report is not available right now. So yeah, we're gonna go to announcements right now. Andrea, should I ask about the announcements or just go to old business?
Great question. If any board members have announcements, now's the time to raise your hand. Otherwise, yes, we can move on. Any hands raised, folks?
Right, seeing none, then I guess we'll go then to old business. Any old business we should discuss today, evening? Oh, I see Jerry Boyd has your hand raised.
Thank you, Ducia. Yes, under old business, I didn't know whether this was an appropriate time to bring up any further discussion around the aid in dying legislation and whether the board will be choosing to take action, either for or against or a neutral position.
Hi, Jerry. Yes, this would be an appropriate time to make a motion or discuss whether the board wants to make a motion.
Yeah, so would anybody like to make a motion to discuss the conversation further?
This is Jerry. I move to bring it up as a discussion topic at this time.
All right, any seconds?
This is Paul, I second.
Great. And since this is just a motion to discuss, we won't need a vote.
Okay. Oops. All right, so should we discuss it now or, all right? Oops. Anybody would like to, oh, I see Charlie Kim has you have your hand up.
It's Charlie Kim. I'm going to bring up my standard procedural question that I do just about at every meeting. So I went back in history to try to figure out, I looked at the goals for the year that were presented for the commission, and then what some of the business items were. I think I missed one of the meetings that I missed when this discussion started. So just to better understand, because we can't discuss on email and everything, and there was one email that came out, but I just wanted to understand, was this something that was brought on previously before the new members, including myself, came onto the board? Was this something that the chair had brought in because he can't make motions? Is this business that was brought in by the commissioner? And I know I've asked this, but I just want to, I can't seem to wrap my head around what we are supposed to be specifically doing, and when was this brought up to us as part of the 2023 goals?
I can respond to that. Charlie, thank you for bringing that up. And it's a very, very good and important point, because you're right. You know, as a municipal board, your focus really is on municipal issues and, you know, trying to impact things that you can't impact. And this is a very complex, broad, national, international issue. So I will say it is a legacy issue for the board. It was brought before the board as far back as 2019. And I believe the way it happened when Carl Richardson was the chair. And I think it was just, you know, John Kelly's group had asked to present, and he was invited to present. And it was as simple as that. But then with new board members coming on, they wanted to hear the other side of the argument. So that's why we invited the group who presented at the last board meeting. So it's definitely a legacy issue from the board. It wasn't part of our goals for 2023, the board's goals. It's not something the board can directly impact in any way. It's a state legislation. It's a national dialogue. There is no, you know, consensus among the disability community or, you know, society in general. So with that framing, that is the reason why we had the other side of the people who are proposing or supporting legislation present last week, because we had never presented that side. and wanted to be fair to give both sides of the issue to the board. And I will ask Andrea if she has anything to add, because we've worked on this. Andrea wasn't here when the first presenters came to the board. I know I was, and probably several board members were as well.
Thanks, Commissioner. The only thing I'll add from a very Robert's Rules of Order perspective is that this is an old business item because it's a topic that the board has discussed and had a presentation from in the past. Therefore, it is sort of an old topic in that sense as old business. That said, there is no specific action item on the table at this time. The board has not, no one has made a motion, no one has seconded that motion, no one has taken a vote to do anything. So right now, we're in the point of old business where the board can have open discussion about the issue, about motions you may or may not want to make one way or the other or whatever. Now is the time for that if the board wishes to take any kind of vote. But there is no motion on the table right now that the board is asked to vote on. It's just discussion. Does that help?
I see Zari, so I see two people have their hands up. I'm gonna go first with Zari, then Jerry, and then Richard. So Zari, you first.
Thank you, Lucia. So I guess my question to you, Andrea, is that I thought that last year when this was brought up, maybe my old memory is slipping here, but I thought we wrote a letter, or we were going to write a letter in support of John Kelly's position. I remember very clearly that, for example, we voted on something and I abstained. So I'm just wondering if this was that, or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I just wanted to make sure.
No, great question. Yeah, this is Andrea. You're not wrong. The board has, at 2 points in its history, taken a vote about legislation at the state level that would legalize medically aid in dying, physician-assisted suicide, multiple names for the legislation. There is a new legislature, right? Every 2 years, we get new senators and representatives who propose new legislation. It maybe changes, it maybe doesn't. A new legislature came in January of this year, and once again, a representative has proposed a piece of legislation on this same topic. So yes, you are correct that the board has taken a vote on a piece of legislation that is no longer active. There is new legislation and new legislators that this board could choose to take a position on if the board wants to take a position, and write a new letter if the board wants to write a letter. So you're right, but also potentially something else could happen.
So I guess my follow-up is that, are we going to ask this question of the board, or does it need to be a motion of, I guess it's more of a question, whether we want to do something similar or whether we want to just stay neutral and not do anything?
Staying neutral is certainly an option that this board can take. Is that a motion that you're making, Zari, or just a question that you're asking?
It's a question I'm asking because, yeah, sorry, no.
That's okay, just trying to be clear so that I can make sure my notes are, the meeting minutes are accurate.
All right, I guess now Jerry has the floor.
Great, thank you, Ducia. And I thought at the last meeting as well, Carl was going to try to find out if anything was imminent in terms of the current legislation, which would maybe prompt us to want to act a little more quickly. I don't know if Carl was able to communicate anything either to the commissioner's office or to the executive committee regarding if and when the proposed legislation is getting voted on anytime soon.
This is Andrea. I'm not recalling that he sent any procedural update to the executive committee. I do know that no vote has taken place, either at the committee level or by the legislature as a whole.
Thank you.
Right, next is Richard.
I sort of had the same question Jerry had, and that is, when would it, if we were to do something without deciding if we're going to, what's the timing that would be most impactful? And when I checked this, I think it was over a month ago, or about a month ago, I understood the legislation was still in committee. But I'm not, I don't pretend to be an expert about legislative affairs. But I think if we are going to do something, I think Jerry's question is kind of key, because we need to know when we'd have the most impact. And it sounds like we really don't know, I guess, at this point.
Do you have any more questions or anybody want to comment? Guess not.
I don't know, I need to make a motion to see it, but I would put out there, if I need to make it as a motion, I will, that we've tried to find out what the status of the legislation is and the timing of when, if we wanted to issue a letter, and I thought there was a draft I saw at one point, what the timing of that might be. I don't know that it makes sense to do much else until we know that. I don't know, Jerry, do you agree?
I do. In fact, I would say, maybe we could circle back with Carl and the executive committee to see the timing of the legislation and going from there. Hopefully, nothing would happen before the new year, before we would meet again, or we'd possibly have to call a special meeting. But yeah, I don't think we're ready to either propose a letter in favor, against, or make any sort of statement of neutrality either at this point. I would like, before we did that, I would like, again, the timing of the legislation and any votes, and I would also like input from the chair and the executive committee specifically. I would like them to be able to fully participate in any debate. So.
This is Andrea. I'll just say that from my experience with the legislature, it's a lot of wait, go. My experience, bills can sit for 10 years and then get scheduled for a vote and be passed the next week. It's very hard to predict a legislative calendar. So I'll just put that out there.
Charlie Kim, do you want to add anything or have a question?
I did. I wanted to kind of go back to Andrea's comments on when it comes to on a Robert's Rules basis. And because this commission is kind of rolling, so we don't have sessions. And we so this is, I think you had mentioned this kind of sits as old business. When does this actually, because as we do roll, we don't have sessions. Does this stay in old business indefinitely, or what is the proper process? Because it seems, what I'm hearing is that people are asking, if we're going to take action, we need some of these variables. But is there another action within Robert's Rules for this commission specifically, if this or does this remain indefinitely in old business? How does it get removed out of old business, I guess is my question.
Hi, Charlie, great question. It would be removed from old business if the board took a vote to be neutral, to take it off the agenda. Generally speaking, the agenda is at the discretion of the executive committee, which, well, the chair, this chair works with the executive committee to set the agenda. Generally speaking, the agenda is at the discretion of the chair. So if the board would like to remove this from sort of that rolling agenda, it would need a motion and a vote to remain neutral and to take no action and no further business on this question of the state legislation.
Sorry, if I may ask a follow-up, just to be kind of fair with the question with old business, would it be possible to understand how many things are kind of sitting on old business? Because I'm also looking at, as we roll into 2024 and wrapping up to 2023, could we get kind of if this is the appropriate term, a housekeeping list of things that may just be sitting out there in old business if we were to potentially kind of maybe look at what things are outstanding and we should probably remove things from old business, I guess?
This is Andrea. Currently, that list does not exist, but I could create it. But also from a practical perspective, that's everything the board has ever talked about, which in a certain way is no different necessarily than new business, because you all can bring up issues at new business for any future meetings. So I could certainly put that list together from past agendas. As a practical matter, anything that's in this board's purview could be added to the agenda at any time, unless and until you take a vote to not talk about it again.
Okay. Yeah, I fear creating work just to create work, right? On that, so I do want to respect what you're saying on that. I guess my intention was not just to exclude or isolate this particular piece for old business, but then as I kind of look at when I keep asking the procedural things just to understand, is my term, I believe is it 4 years, right? 2 years, I think it's 4 years. 2 years, okay. That I make sure that I understand some of the things that they keep rolling, that's all. So, thank you.
All right, thank you for that discussion that we had. Should we move now to old business?
Sorry, new business?
Sorry?
Did you mean new business?
Okay, new business? Anybody have new business to discuss? Don't see anything. No? Okay, should we go then to public input?
Thanks, Ducia. I'm going to pull up really quickly a reminder about new business, or sorry, public input for folks who may not have been on at the beginning of the agenda. So just a reminder that to be recognized, come on, screen share, load please. To be recognized, please use the chat or raise your hand so that you can be recognized and asked to unmute and to be put on screen. Please identify yourself before speaking to increase access for blind and low vision attendees. I did not do that this time. I'm Andrea. And I don't know why this slide does not say, but public input is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. So you will be timed and I will chime in when your 2 minutes is up. With that, I will turn now to see if anyone has a hand raised.
I see Dolores has her hand raised.
Okay, Dolores, give me 1 second to send you a request to unmute. There you are.
No, I wasn't raising my hand up. Sorry, I was moving something on the screen. I apologize.
No worries at
But
all.
thank you for recognizing me, though.
It's all good.
How these latest strikes in the region will complicate.
I see another person has their hand raised. Oh, Ray, would you like to speak?
Hi everyone. I'm Ray, and although I don't identify as a person with a disability, but I am a PhD student at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, and I'm actually doing my PhD in global inclusion and social development, and I also have a nonprofit in Nigeria that helps to cater for people with disabilities through demand-driven ICT skills, where they get access to jobs after they've been trained. And I find this group real interesting, and I got to know about it through my colleague at the ICI, which is the Institute for Community and Inclusion. It is a part of UMass Boston under my program. And I think for me, it would be really great to see how new members are kind of introduced or get introduced themselves and what they do and how they can contribute their volunteerism or their expertise in a much larger platform as this. So I don't know what it looks like or what the structure is, but it would be great to hear or see how newcomers can kind of identify with certain committees or certain projects or programs that this commission does on a daily basis. Just to say, I stay on Savin Hill at Dorchester, so I'll be really happy to know if there's any upcoming events or programs where I can actually contribute my expertise in a larger form. I'm also sitting on the board of members for the World Institute on Disability, so it's still part of my mission to kind of enlarge my network, and that's basically why I'm here. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Ray. I can answer your questions. So I'm Kristen McCosh, and I'm the Disability Commissioner for the City of Boston. My role is a paid position. I'm a department head in the city. The group who's on in this meeting tonight are our Disability Commission Advisory Board members. So they're a group of 13 residents who've been appointed by the mayor, and I believe it's for 3-year terms, Charlie. I believe everyone serves a 3-year term. So this is a very specific group. They don't have any committees right now, so they host public meetings once a month, really focused on municipal issues, reporting to us concerns that they hear in the community, and helping inform us so that we can focus our work in our department to better serve the residents of Boston. So the advisory board's work is really limited to advising us on municipal issues, but our work in the department focuses on increasing accessibility and inclusion for all residents and visitors to Boston. That being said, we have a weekly email newsletter that you could sign up for to get more information on our programs, different outreach events that we do. I mentioned one earlier in my report. We're having an employment webinar next Tuesday afternoon. You're welcome to participate in that. And like I said, if you want to visit disability@boston.gov, you can sign up for our newsletter and find out more about us online. And Andrea can put our email in the chat. Feel free to email us and we can get back to you with more information.
All right, just checking if there's any hands raised. Don't see any. Okay, so for some reason I'm losing track. Are we now at public input? Okay. So anybody from the public want to ask questions, any comments, concerns? Feel free to put in the chat if you want.
Hi, this is Andrea. I will read a comment in the chat into the record for folks who are watching at home. Michael Martinetti says, I presented at your last meeting and we emailed answers to the advisory board. The poll is considered a scientific poll with over 1,000 residents of Mass responding, and 19% of those respondents had a disability. So it was a good sampling of a diverse population. Also, I communicated directly with Dr. Lisa Iazzoni in response from your board, and Dr. Iazzoni, as a board member of BCIL, voted for a neutrality on the end-of-life options bill. Also, as the advisory board may know, the Mass Medical Society voted engaged neutrality on the same bill. I hope that your board also vote neutrality, which obviously means that you are not for or against the bill, but rather leave this decision to the legislators. So that is the public comment there.
All right, I'm just making sure that I'm not ignoring anybody from the public or anybody on the board. All right, looks like there's nothing. It's 6:54 p.m. All right, so should we do an early adjournment?
I am channeling my inner Carl. I make a motion to adjourn.
Who wants a second?
This is Jerry. I'll second that motion.
All right, and everybody in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. All right, then I wish you all a wonderful evening and a wonderful holiday, and see you next year.
And to see
Great
if
job, Lucia.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for filling in.
Yeah, please be safe, everyone.
Yeah.